But, all right, Jenny Everywhere, powers, being, and nature. There is one constant. Jenny Everywhere is the shifter. She can traverse dimensions, even if her current story does not reflect that. So we're going to cover some things which might be setting only, because she was always going to be in every reality, basically.
Yes.
Of what we're going to go over, I do mention some of these, but there are also possibility of none, partial, limited, or in combination with other factors. So you can these are mostly in recognition of things that have already existed. These aren't limitations. This is like a retrospect of what people have already done, and a little bit of expansion on that. Of,
Sure.
Because the powers, I may not have some examples for it. So we're going to start with personality. That's her being. These are 5 fairly common recurring examples. There's the rebellious, there's the adventurous, there's the woman of action, the average, every person, and then random and insane.
The random and insane ones are always fun.
Yes. This is a shot from Damn Fine Hostile Takeover, and actually parts 1 and 2, and Names Not Down is also a good example of the punk rebellious Jenny Everywhere. I should have grabbed my mouse for this one. Adventurous. This is from my Jenny Everywhere and the Golden Key, the first Lego comic of Jenny Everywhere.
Yes.
And just going on adventures, having adventures just for the sake of having an adventure. Go Team Venture. Woman of action. How is this different from adventurous? More action?
Yeah, more explosions maybe?
Less suspense. Well, I don't know. But this is from When Casting Calls.
Very, very, very good comic.
Very good. And available.
Scott Wegener, the artist for this, the guy that does Atomic Robo now, which, if I may, everybody should be reading because it is awesome. I love Atomic Robo.
And you can actually buy this.
Yes.
This particular comic. I'm going to try on the website. I have a spot for store. I'm basically going to try to find everyone's links to Jenny stuff to buy, which are of 2 things right now that I can think of.
Well worth the purchase.
Yes.
I would say.
Average everyday person, and this almost never really happens, to be honest, or it doesn't happen for long.
Yes. It may be the start point to a story, but it's rarely the ending.
Or let's see here. Though a lot of Jennies they don't have to be 100% all time, all day. A good character is going to have different modes and ups and downs. Of course, this particular scene is from The Death of Jenny Everywhere, which is a pretty interesting comic where she first comes into realization of who she is. And we'll talk about this particular one a little bit more. I'm going to find this mouse.
Now this is page. Sure. Now, real quick though, this is the one. Was this one of the first ones where she interacted with herself? Like this was. I want to say this was the first one where she interacted with herself.
I think it was one of them.
Because there's this one, and I know that you have a slide for another one later, but I want to say this one predates that. But we are on my favorite. I would say are Insane and Random. Which is basically Jenny doing nothing that really makes sense, but having fun doing it.
I don't have my mouse. I don't know where I put it. It's a Bluetooth mouse. This is really cool.
But this one is from a comic called Insert Comic Here. It's Zach. I can never remember.
Zach Holmes.
Holmes. And very, very fun strip. Recurring character in that. Still to this day, I don't know how much he's been updating it as of late.
But it's the best example of the random insane.
Yes. There is a point when she shifts something, which we'll get into a little bit in a minute, from, what was it? It was like it ends up being a whale at the end of it.
It was a little bird flying by. I couldn't decide which power that was, so I didn't use it as an example. But we'll cover those powers coming up here.
Very fun comic, to say the least.
Dimensional existence. More about her being cross-dimensional, trans-dimensional, multi-dimensional, all sorts of dimensions here.
Yes.
Cross-dimensional is more of like a single Jenny that traverses the other realities. You can consider this as more of a setting, because obviously this won't work with other Jennies.
Yes.
Though sometimes they just don't get to the point where they explain it, and they don't have to.
Yeah. It's basically a Jenny appears, she does something, and sometimes she disappears, sometimes she hangs around, something of that nature. Yeah. But that is, that I will say is probably one of the more common ways that she's done cameos and things.
Right,
is just to kind of appear at random and hang out for a while. But, yes.
Right. and we're going to go into a lot more of the other powers, which will blend into these as examples.
Yes, exactly.
Transdimensional, that's when a single Jenny consciousness has multiple bodies and multiple worlds. Kind of a hard one to really place.
Yeah.
Like I said, My Bloody Valentine, she's there.
Yes.
But her mind's kind of...
Also elsewhere.
Yes. Inhabiting her other selves, I guess.
Yes.
So kind of like many bodies, one mind.
Yeah, exactly. Which is something I've always imagined with the stuff I've done. I've just never 100% translated it into what I've done. But it's always been an aspect of the character I've meant to incorporate. Mm-hmm. It's just, as of yet, I've not actually written a storyline to utilize it. Right. But it is... it's a weird one. It does some fun stuff with that, though, especially My Bloody Valentine. That one I do particularly. Right. I think does some nice fun stuff with that piece.
This one says it's her time of the month, so she's going a little... she's not able to control it, so she's kind of... But, your mileage will vary with some of these story points. Multidimensional. This is probably the most common one used aside from just a single Jenny. Because I think most that start with one will sometimes go that direction too. Multiple Jennies across multiple worlds. Basically, she can meet her other selves. Makeshift Multiverse is an early one where 4 Jennies that are piloting this Lotus spaceship.
Yes. It's weird, but it is. Yeah, it is very fun. It is a very, very fun strip. Just like doing some very creative things. Generically, the art is very good in it. But yes, generically, it's multidimensional, being able to... I always mentioned it as nodes in a network. They're individual nodes that are all interconnected, internetworked, is how I've always kind of imagined it in my mind for multidimensional Chinese. But it's some interesting story potential with that.
Right. Self-awareness, also part of her being... we'll need to pick it up just a little bit.
Sure. We
have unaware, aware, partial awareness, and then comic novel awareness. Aware, Jenny knows of her other selves and or of the multiverse at the very least. This particular is taken from Say the Word. I meant to write who they're all by, but I forgot. This is another one of the early strips.
Yes. Another one that has a lot of homages to the earlier works before it as well, because I see a lot of Nelson's work in there.
Oh, right. And I think some of them were just made up in here, too. Or redrawn, actually.
Some of it, yeah. I think actually the whole thing was redrawn, but some of it at least.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting panel.
And unaware. She just doesn't know that she's a part of a multi-dimension or multiple-dimensional being. It's usually as a setting, because it usually doesn't last long, because she ends up finding out, or it's just not approached.
Yeah. It's usually, like when we're talking about Jenny as a pulp character, it's just sort of, she's there, she's doing stuff, and she has some powers, but she never really talks about it. But then other times, it is basically used as a start point. It is to create an arc. She finds out more about herself throughout and realizes she is much more than just a normal person.
Partial awareness. Now, this is where you get into it. It turns into that. This is the only example I could find where Jenny says that she had sort of like feelings or something that was there. There was something more.
A sense of predestiny or something.
Something like that, but it doesn't usually stay that way for very long.
Yes.
Again, from the death of Jenny everywhere here. And then the comic novel awareness is the one that I had to put my feet into. Or in the webcomic world, WCA or webcomic awareness is where it originally came up until somebody told me it's called novel awareness. But Jenny is aware of herself within her medium and then being in multiple realities. There's a prime example was during the crossover wars, a mega multi-webcomic crossover that lasted like a year between 2007 and 2008. This particular scene is from the Crossing Over Worlds, Jenny Everywhere webcomic I decided to do because the crossovers, there's like 50 different crossovers that had direct crossovers with each other, and loads of cameos and references, and it was just too perfect of a story to do, and I don't even remember if I was originally going to have her become a... I think it had to be. Yeah. Well, originally she was supposed to have like this adventure in the background.
Okay.
Like she's supposed to be, because it's like I was using a power we'll talk about in the future, but that all got screwed up, and then I just saw things unfold. It's like she's going to get doused with webcomic awareness potion, which was a MacGuffin, I guess.
Sure.
One of them, anyway. It could have been also a red herring, too, because of what happened. It's just crazy. If anybody asks me, I can tell you all about it, but...